Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you how to make a rose out of fondant or chocolate clay without using any cutters. First, you're going to need 12 pieces of fondant or chocolate clay. I've gone ahead and rolled them out into balls. And at this point, you're going to go ahead and take the first ball or piece of fondant and you're going to make the cone. You can roll it in between your fingers and make the tip. Then you're going to take your next piece of fondant and you're going to start by shaping the petal. I'm warming up the fondant again in my hand and I'm creating a V shape, or as I like to call it, a candy corn. Then you're going to go ahead and insert this piece of fondant in between two pieces of plastic. Here I use a Ziploc bag and I'm using my fingers to press out the fondant, thinning the fondant on the top side of the petal. Using the Ziploc plastic, you can really thin out the piece of fondant, but you want to make sure to leave the bottom area a little bit thicker. This will help you shape the petal. Once you have the first petal formed, go ahead and wrap this around the cone. You want to be careful and make sure that you cover the entire cone and wrap the first petal around the cone. As you can see, I'm using my thumb to open up the bud a little bit. I find that this makes the rose look a little bit more realistic. In order to focus more on how to assemble the rose, I went ahead and pre-formed the 10 remaining fondant pieces and made them into petals. You're going to take the next two petals and you're going to wrap it around your bud. And keeping in mind, I'm shaping the petal by keeping the right side of the petal open. At this point, I insert the next petal and wrap it around the bud. Here, I take my time to gently squeeze and press, and then to fan out and to shape the bud in the way that I really want the rose to look. I find that if you take the time at this point to do this step, then the rest of the assembly goes a lot smoother. As you're shaping the petals, go ahead and rotate your bud. This will give you a nice curve on how the petals are formed. Next, you're going to take 3 additional petals. With these petals, you're going to start the first petal right in between the last 2. And I'm going to repeat the process where I start to gently press the petal in. I'm going to take the second petal and I'm going to insert this petal to the right of the first petal. And I'm going to continue this step and process with the third petal. And I'm going to squeeze gently to adhere the fondant pieces together. Now I'm going to gently start to shape all of my petals. And again, I like to rotate the bud as I'm shaping the petals. I find that, again, this gives me a lot more control and I can see how the petals are falling. If you want a really paper-thin effect to your petals, you can also squeeze the top of the petals in between your fingers, warming up the fondant or the chocolate clay. Now we're in the home stretch. You should have 5 remaining petals. Take the first petal and repeat the process. You're going to go ahead and place this petal in between 2 of the petals that you just completed, keeping the right side of the petal open. Now you're going to take the 4 remaining petals and insert the petals to the right of the last petal. This will give you a very open, cascading effect. And since we have our last 5 petals, I make sure to gently squeeze after I place each of the petals. And again, this will help the petals to adhere to your rose. once you have all the 5 petals in place, go ahead and start to squeeze and shape your petals. Now I do something slightly different here because these are the last 5. I go ahead and create a little V shape in the middle of each petal. This gives the rose a full bloom effect, and I think it adds a little bit more interest to your flower. Depending on the size of your fondant pieces, you can make rather large roses using this method. Alternatively, you can use smaller fondant pieces, and this will result in a smaller rose. I hope you enjoyed my video on how to make roses without using cutters, and I hope that you can use this method soon on your cakes and your cupcakes. Thanks so much, and hope to see you soon.